2 years ago today, we were getting on our first flight, embarking on our first journey to Japan. Since then, we have been back 3 times total and have 2 more trips planned and booked for this year.
Over the last 2 years, we've gotten hundreds of messages from everyone we know and everyone they know on every social media platform asking us how we are able to go so often and how we can afford it. So in this video, we're going to tell you everything you need to know to go to Japan for 3 weeks for $3,000 or less.
We found that it's generally cheapest to fly out of LAX or New York, but you can find some cheap flights from Denver or other international airports if you're lucky. I just wouldn't bank on those.
So of course there's going to be seasons in the year that are more expensive or cheaper than other parts. For example, June, July, and August are generally the worst time of the year to fly from the United States to Japan, or really anywhere, and the spring and the fall are your best bets.
Now if you just Google LAX to Tokyo, you're probably not going to find the best deals from the best airlines. So we're going to show you some apps and services that we use to get the best deals at the best times.
So a couple of them are apps that you can get on iPhone or Android. Our favorite ones are called Skyscanner and Hopper. Those are both flight tracking apps that you can use from any location to any other location, and you can track the dates or around the dates that you're looking to fly and see how the prices rise and fall throughout the year. The other thing that I would recommend is subscribing to an email subscription called Scott's Cheap Flights. It's free, there is a paid version, but we don't use it, and you get an email every day or every other day with mistake fares or abnormally low flight fares all over the country and all over the world, including Japan.
So speaking of our first trip to Japan, we spent about $548 for our plane tickets, and that was exactly 3 weeks' time.
You can expect to spend about that much for your trip too, as long as you're patient and you're tracking the flights. You're not just buying the first deal that you see. If your deal is more than $550 out of LAX, you should wait.
So all things considered, you shouldn't spend more than $550 for your flight to Japan.
So the next thing we'll have to go over in this video is where you will stay once you do reach Japan.
So there are a few different options you can choose when staying in Japan. You have Airbnb, you have hotels such as traditional style Japanese hotels and capsule hotels, and you also have hostels.
So our favorite by a landslide is Airbnb. If you don't know what Airbnb is, it's an app that is also accessible on Android or iPhones where local people can rent out their home or apartment or any type of property for you for a certain rate per night. So the main reason that we like Airbnb more than any other style of accommodation in Japan is how affordable it is, how accessible it is, and how friendly it is to foreigners.
You can expect to spend around $30 or so US a night. Anywhere between that, maybe $20 on the cheap end, and you can go all the way up to $500 on the really expensive, luxurious end if you really want to.
Another big reason that we prefer Airbnb over traditional hotels or capsule hotels is that Japan is still very far in the past when it comes to tattoos, and we both do have visible tattoos. Airbnb, on the other hand, is more updated in terms of those kind of policies, so we would be less likely to be turned away because of that.
Airbnb also has policies in place for LGBTQ communities and people who are outside of the gender norm, restricting people from renting or not renting from you based off of your sexual preference or your gender identity.
The last key point that you'll have to think about when planning your trip to Japan is how you intend on getting around the country once you're there. The best way to make almost unlimited public transportation affordable while on your trip to Japan is by purchasing a Japan Rail Pass online.
There are 3 different options when it comes to getting a rail pass. You can get a 1-week pass, a 2-week pass, or a 3-week pass. In this video, we're going to focus on the 3-week pass, which costs $529.
And don't let that price scare you off. I know it sounds kind of high, but we can easily show you how it will pay itself off with just 1 or 2 small trips within Japan.
Using the so-called golden route trip to Japan as an example, going from Tokyo to Osaka, Kyoto, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki, you have already saved the money you would have spent purchasing Shinkansen tickets to and from each of those destinations round trip. Also available from the JRailPass website is pocket Wi-Fi rental, which is what we always use on our trips abroad. We've always had reliable and fast internet connection from Okinawa to Hokkaido and cannot recommend it more. Adding that into the equation will cost $111.
So once you've booked your flights, reserved your accommodations, and purchased your RailPass and pocket Wi-Fi, you will have spent around $1,800 of your $3,000 budget and have purchased all of your necessities for your trip to Japan.
The remaining $1,200 that you have is what you're going to spend on your day-to-day budget while in Japan. If you divide that around 3 weeks, that's going to be $56 a day. Now that's going to go up or down depending on how budget you want to go and how much money you spend each day.
One really good way to save money in your day-to-day life in Japan is to go to convenience stores like 7-Eleven, Family Mart, and Lawson's and Natural Lawson's for at least one of your meals every day as opposed to eating out at a restaurant.
Another good way to save money is to make sure that when you're renting Airbnbs, you pick the ones that have kitchens so you can go to your local supermarket and pick up ingredients to make your own meals and skip the restaurants.
Another thing to keep in mind while in Japan is to omit taxis and renting a car and instead choose to walk for most of your shorter trips and your inner city travel. Some of our best adventures have been because we choose to walk and not spend money on taxis, which can cost up to $300 for just a night's trip in Japan.
And we're not even joking, taxis cost a ridiculous amount of money in Japan. There's Uber, but it's the same price as taxis, unless you're in a place like Okinawa, which is the only place that I would ever recommend even thinking about renting a taxi. Another really easy way to eat on the go in Japan and save money is to go to fast food restaurants like Tsukiya, Matsuya, Yoshinoya, and the only place that I know of that has cheap vegan options would be Koko Ichibanya.
These are the kind of places where you can go and pick up an entire meal for about 400 yen or less, which is about $350 in US dollars.
Your daily budget can go up and down on a day-to-day basis depending on how much you spend every day. Some days you'll spend less than $56, some days you'll spend more than $56. You usually need to keep track of the money that you are spending. At the end of the day, carry the money over to the next day or set it aside for a special purchase.
But all in all, $56 as an average daily budget is very doable in Japan without feeling like you're missing out on anything. So, all taken into consideration, $3,000 for a 3-week trip to Japan will be a good time.
It's extremely doable. You're going to have a great time in a new country.
Couldn't recommend it more.
Seriously. This is the best way to go out and travel. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it helped you finally take that first step to going on your first trip to Japan.
And if you have any more specific questions that you have about traveling or Japan or budgeting in general, just put a comment in the comments below and we're planning on making more videos, so we'll try to address it in our next one.
Until then, see you next time.